Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you. Happy Friday. I am looking out my window and it's a gorgeous sunny afternoon here on the West Coast over in Oregon, where many of you know I'm at. I hope you all had a great Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you've been watching some of the results from the box office. Been really, really great throughout the month of July. Just kind of our fourth month in a row here of fantastic results. We'll talk about that a little bit, what that's meant to AMC's cash flows. Just fun with words here. AMC, fantastic signals are screaming. I want to talk a little bit about some of the just some of the indicators that are going on and some of the news, because we get wrapped up in watching stock price and fighting online and different things like that. And sometimes it's just good to pull up and see what's really going on and what does that mean to our stock. So without further ado, I'm just going to dive into that today. First off, so I'm just going to go through a series of things that are going on, news that's come out, stuff that sort of builds in my mind, and I do believe there's a lot of momentum going on. In fact, go look at Adam's post today. Um, Gosh, I'm forgetting one of the words he said. He said three words. So I'm pulling this up on my phone as I film this video. I should have put this in the deck, because then that would have been better video here. You wouldn't be listening to me look at something on my phone. But he even mentioned momentum, didn't he? Let's see. Optimism, momentum, and confidence. I loved it. I love that tweet from him, or that post from him. Just talking about something we're going to hit here in a minute, so I won't jump forward. But I am going to just talk here about a series of things that I think set up momentum for us. So first off, we'll have our Q2 earnings readout soon. Reminder, Q2 is April, May, June. Those 3 months that are, pretty well in the rear view mirror now, but are I believe, going to be a lot of fun to celebrate. I will do a Q2 earnings forecast very soon. I like to do those before the call so we can see whether I can get it right or not and all of that, and just kind of, I don't know, signal what I think we did. But I am suggesting that we did make profits. I'm already telling you, and I've told you for a long time, I believe we have bottom line positive earnings. Can't promise that. There can be plenty of things in the business that I did not foresee. Certainly the capital expenditures could come in bigger, things like that. Attendance could be off, whatever. So I believe we've got profits. I'm highlighting pretty loudly here that that's a forecast, so I can be wrong. You'll know that in, just a couple weeks here. We're going to know it real soon. I believe we probably have as much as like a 40+% increase year on year in our revenues. Q2 last year was heavily strike impacted. It was a pretty low quarter. I want to say 1.9 billion at the box office, whereas we were, well above that this year. You saw me tracking that, especially if you follow me on X. So I think our revenues are probably around 40% or even more above last year. And if you follow me a while, I like to track price to sales as a metric. When a company has not yet achieved full year profits, price to sales can be a good metric for turnaround companies and startup companies. Clearly, AMC is a turnaround story. So I use price to sales sometimes. And the reason I'm bringing that up is if it looks at the last 4 quarters. Well, we're about to drop out last year's strike quarter and replace it with this year's really nice quarter. So go look at the price that we ended on today. I think our price to sales is 0.309, so it's not even 0.31. Cinemark's, if you go look at that, is like 1.09. They're almost 4x our price to sales. So AMC's stock price would have to go up 4 times to be the same price to sales metric as Cinemark. Now you want to study that. The whole point of a metric is so to point out that things are not always apples to apples. Like say you compare our price to sales to a technology company like Google or something. You're not going to have the same price to sales across different industries and things, because it's just saying for every dollar of sales you bring in, what is your stock priced at? And not all businesses are the same. So I'm not suggesting just automatically we should 4x, but I've said before plenty of times, and for my newer followers, just to share with you, I've always believed Cinemark had the higher floor. So in the period of lockdowns and the period of depressed box office, Cinemark was a little healthier, but that AMC has a far higher ceiling. We've talked about operating leverage. We've talked about the market share AMC has. AMC is the only one with the apes. We've got popcorn across thousands of doors. Just a lot of things AMC has that other theater exhibitors do not have. So I think our ceiling is going to be very high. We're going to become a growth stock, in my opinion. That's going to be a lot of fun. And so just wanted to draw your attention to one of the key indicators, or one of the key events that's happening, is when we report those earnings, you will see our year of sales increase quite a bit. So if the stock was to do nothing, that price to sales number is going to drop even further and signal even deeper value in AMC. My hunch is actually that the algorithms will pick up and have to at least go up a little on those earnings. Let's see what happens there. AMC's always very unpredictable. We know we're or at least many of us believe we're heavily manipulated. So I can't promise that's going to happen. Also, did you see we got multiple analyst upgrades? So Wedbush had upgraded us. Of course, they only put a $4 price target on us, which, you know, if you followed some of my videos on the valuation of AMC, $4 is insane. But you also know, if you followed me for a while, that one tinfoil theory would be sometimes these guys signal where there's a problem for the shorts, and it's in a way a price for the network to try to keep us under. They're not going to be able to keep us under that for long, especially after we report earnings and things start looking better. That's just a point of view. You can't go to the bank with that, but I'm putting my own money where my mouth is, obviously, and staying in AMC. So I believe we're deeply undervalued. You guys know that. But anyway, Wedbush upgraded us. B. Riley upgraded us. If you go look at those articles, you'll see a lot of language that I've been telling you for a very long time. So they're acknowledging things that I've been saying in terms of the business fundamentals and the industry turnaround. And that's what's always been the thesis, guys, that eventually the business results force people to have to acknowledge the truth. And we will continue to beat them over the head with these business results as we get stronger and stronger. And they're having a harder and harder time denying what's going on. But interestingly, then B. Riley, they definitely kind of copied a lot of things I've been saying. Only for 2026, if you were to read it, they're way too bearish. So they're still not quite ready to, in my opinion, to acknowledge the full reality of where the box office has been going. But they're getting there. And we did get those upgrades. You know, celebrate the small wins. You probably saw today, I talked about Adam's news, the debt to equity swap. So we take some of our debt, this $143 million, and it has been exchanged for shares. Now, I just want to caution, you know, normally, okay, there's more shares out, so that's dilution, and then the algorithms take over, and of course the shorts attack and all that. And the manipulators yell dilution, dilution. You go look at my fundamentals playlist if you're new here. I've talked plenty about the idea of value creation. There's, you know, even when you dilute, if you're bringing in cash and you're doing positive things with those cash and having a return on your investment, there should be value creation. And so, you know, that's what GameStop has done with their convertibles. That's what strategy is doing. You know, yes, there's dilution, but you're creating value on the other side of that. And so then your stock should go up, especially as you bring in cash flows. So the other thing, though, I would say on this dilution, remember we made the announcement, I don't know, a month ago when Adam shared that the bondholders had to vote and all of that. And that was a funny experience for me. Within about 12 hours, I said this thing was going through the negative accounts all kind of tried to troll me on the fact it wasn't approved. And literally the next morning, Adam said, hey, we have enough votes that it's approved. So that was kind of funny to watch, you know, another, I don't know, example of where there's credibility versus where there's spin, let's say. But we've got this 143 million that got announced, paid down today. So I'm going to show you the chart that I posted on X. If you followed me a while, it'll be a very familiar chart. I've posted it many times over the past, I don't know, 2 years. But we paid down $143 million of debt. That's awesome. My opinion is, again, that dilution was already priced in at the announcement like a month ago. I don't think, and frankly, many times over, because long before that, we had talked about some of the debt to equity swap. I would just say then, watch for improved earnings. So, and I just said, you know, that continues to force the issue in terms of price to sales, eventually price to earnings, cash flows, different things that just in terms of standard math need to be priced into the stock. And that's why, you know, again, we're going to win. Just so you know, at 7.5%, this 143 million debt that got wiped off the books is almost $11 million a year in interest payments. That improves our earning. That goes straight to the bottom line because it's a removal of an expense. So you remove an expense and you're keeping more of your revenues. You've just improved your profitability. So that's awesome. That's about 2.7 million a quarter, 2.68. And you will start to see that in the Q3 results. So if today we're not quite a month into Q3, right? We're here in late July. So I imagine what that probably means then is you get like 2 out of the 3 months of the quarter. So it won't be this full 2.7 million in savings, but we'll have some piece of this that we have less interest payments next quarter, this quarter. that then get reported in November. So our Q3 earnings, I will be able, when I do my forecast, to reflect our interest payments being less, our expenses going down. So we are already more profitable than we were just before you woke up this morning. All right, so speaking of that debt then, I got to update the chart today on that 143 million. You guys know I did those couple videos on the state of kind of how many shorts we have and how silly that is compared to where our debt's been going and our business and a lot of other things. Go look at the last two videos if you missed those. In many ways, it's very encouraging to see how the shorts are basically at all-time highs, even while the price is at all-time lows, which is completely, you guys all know the saying, bass-ackwards for the shorts. So that's in our favor. At some point, they're going to have to capitulate. And this helps tell the story, right? So here's the debt. You know, if you go, this shows you all the way our whole journey. This is from Q4 of 2020, before most of us were here. This is pre-apes, January 2021, and all of the things with Roaring Kitty and everything that's gone on. You can see that AMC was having to survive, right? So AMC was all the way up at almost $5.8 billion of debt. Then you can see in the middle of 2023, we actually got to the place where we were at pre-COVID levels of debt. And then AMC ever since then has actually been lower. So this yellow line for, a couple of years now, we've actually had lower debt than we had pre-COVID. So the trolls like to say, oh, you got way too much debt. And it's like, actually, guys, maybe even less than pre-COVID. And now it's significantly less. You can see the final drop, this thing that says current at the bottom. That's that 143 million that we've paid off since the end of Q1. These are all actuals. This blue line, this comes straight from AMC's filings. You could fact check me on this easily. Go to the SEC Edgar website, look up AMC, or go to AMC's investor relations site. Look up all the 10Ks and 10Qs, and you can find these numbers. This is the borrowing from the balance sheet each quarter. I just update it. So you can see, just look at that, quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter, over and over and over and over and over and over and over. AMC's debt has been going down very, very consistently. Look at how many quarters, almost every quarter, the debt goes down. These guys have been paying off debt. They're fixing the balance sheet. And over time, that's reducing our expenses, improving our cash flows, improving our profitability. And you get this snowball effect where eventually we're making enough cash that operations itself even starts to turn around and pay down more debt, right? And then you're even more profitable, and then you have more cash. So you can see how this is going to start going. Especially, this is why I highlighted these last 4 months, April through now, I'm going to call it April through July, these 4 months, cash flow positive. We don't know yet. Will Adam even announce that during Q2, or even here in July, that they've paid down more debt, not just the debt to equity swap, but actually that we had enough cash, we paid off more debt. Speaking of which, by the way, real quick, the announcement from today, I should have put on the slide. It wasn't just that we had this $143 million pay down. Remember on the refinance, and I did a whole video when the announcement came out. I've got a refinance video. You can go back, find that. It's probably the end of June or something like that, maybe beginning of July. I don't remember the timing of the announcement. Anyway, I went through the filing. Reminder that we also brought in $244 million of cash. So we've just brought in $244 million of cash. Some of that will refinance. So there's some debt refinancing that moves debt from 2026 and 2025 out to 2029. This 143 got paid down. This was, I think, 2030 debt. So anyway, the point is, some of that cash we could use to further pay down debt as well. I'm not sure. Let's see. Some of that they'll keep in the war chest, and some of that they'll use. Adam has said we're putting in more Dolby screens, IMAX screens, laser projectors, better seats. Some of that cash will go to investment too. But that's, in theory, driving more cash flows. So you should eventually see that in the results. All right, let's not stop there. We got more fantastic signals. So reminder that a few weeks back, and of course a lot of people liked to troll on this one. Speaking of which, there's a few accounts on X and that are really kind of websites who you can just tell there's a few Hollywood accounts who, their whole thing is to talk about the entertainment industry, but they're constantly negative about movies. So clearly they just seem to be in the pocket of Netflix and streamers, and they don't want to talk positively about AMC. So when we announced that we were having some more commercials, I just went to see Superman this last week. We took our youngest, the two big kids were out of town at a camp, and so the youngest and my wife and I, we went and saw Superman. And I mean, there's the normal commercials before the previews. Then you go through some of the previews. Then it paused. It had two commercials. And we had more previews, and then we had the movie. Like, it was not that big a deal. And if you want to just go to the bathroom or get your Coke or whatever, then again, even less of a big deal. And AMC has been putting directly on its website even what time the movies will start. So I think there's a balance here of being consumer friendly, while bringing in new revenues. And so as an AMC stockholder, I'm sitting here going, well, you have a captive audience, you got people coming. As long as you don't obviously go too far with it and annoy your consumer, we have more revenue. So guys, we're going to start seeing advertising dollars showing up in our results. I would assume that really just started after the announcement, which you can see like from this website here. It's kind of small probably on your screen, but this was July 1st. So we're talking about Q3. We're talking about now and forward. So I won't be surprised in November when we report those Q3 results that we see that's probably going to go in that other revenue. You guys remember we have admissions, we have food and beverage, and we have other when these guys report our revenues. I think this will show up in the other revenue, and you will see, you'll be happy. You'll see some more revenue here, which will improve our profitability. So that's yet another thing that is not priced into the stock, in my opinion. Wall Street's gonna act like it's a big surprise when they just see, wait, AMC made more money than we were expecting. So that's gonna be fun. We just did the half off Wednesdays, right? That's when I took my part of my family to go see Superman. We're Stubbs members. We got a matinee showing. We got the half off. It's a great deal. And so that began basically just a couple weeks ago. And so far, there's some signs that it's working in our favor. I will trust Adam and team to do the deeper financial analysis on that. Sometimes in business, you talk about whether something is cannibalizing. If it's taking people who would have gone Friday and now they're going on a discount Wednesday, that can be an issue. But I just have a feeling this is bringing in access to a different consumer. You've got your consumer who loves to go out on the weekends and see the big new movies and all that stuff, and is a full price consumer. And then you've got your, I don't know, maybe it's just people that are in a pinch. Some of you guys know my story. It's been tougher. Or it could be there's, let's say I don't know, coupon type of mom. That was our house when our kids were little and stuff. So I think you're bringing in another consumer. And so look at just an anecdotal one Wednesday I'm sharing with you here. On Superman's first Wednesday, which was the first Wednesday, I believe, no, it was the second Wednesday AMC had just started this. That was now, not just for Superman, but actually, yes, for Superman. Superman had the biggest Wednesday of all of 2025. Nothing has beaten it yet. So I have a feeling that's not a coincidence that started after AMC had rolled out this program. It also was the biggest ever Superman Wednesday. So it was the biggest Wednesday of any movie for 2025. It was the biggest ever Wednesday for Superman. It was the number 4 biggest Wednesday in DC history. It was only behind, there's 2 Batman movies that beat it. Obviously, Batman is huge. And then Aquaman came out, basically there was a Christmas holiday Wednesday. That's the only reason that was higher. So I do think there's some signs. And by the way, those numbers I'm giving, those are hard dollar numbers. So even with the half off, Superman was still hitting these box office really high sales numbers, which tells me that's bringing in a lot of people. And then AMC's making money on food and beverage and merch sales too, right? So I think bringing in that midweek, maybe cost-conscious consumer, but then getting some halo effect in food and beverage and merch. I don't know to what extent. I just said they're cost-conscious, so we'll see how much they're spending. But I just have a feeling this is working. The team will analyze it. They'll tell us if it's working or not. And we'll know, because if we stick with the program, that means it's working. But then don't sleep on the fact that it's also driving Stubbs membership, right? You can't get this half off unless you sign up for Stubbs. There's a free level for Stubbs, so it doesn't mean everybody's getting into a paid membership. But you guys know, or if you're new to me, I'll just share with you. I worked at Nike 21 years, and I can tell you we were very focused on membership. The more you can get sticky with the consumer, the more you can get them engaging with you and being in your so-called ecosystem, the more deepening you have of the relationship, then the more money you're making with that consumer. So I think it's great that you have to be a member to get this deal. And I just won't be surprised then if you can upsell some of it. It's not 0 of those members who will then go to the $5 membership, or then will go to the, go to A-List and go to Premier. So I think that's going to be really great. And then perhaps that drives a little more consumer loyalty too. Just a way, again, to hook an audience into AMC. So I love it. And you saw it get highlighted on Hip to Save, Groupon, other discount sites. All right, so let's just kind of pull up. What do we got going on? We've had these analyst upgrades. I showed you how we've got all-time highs in shorts. When we're getting to basically, let's call it an all-time positive in terms of our strength, at least since post-COVID. We've got articles, if you haven't seen, I didn't even show you here, but there's multiple articles I'm starting to see and posts on X and things like that that are talking about meme stocks. So clearly it's on their minds. People are sort of, the narrative is forming, like, oh, are we going to have meme mania again and stuff like that. Q2 profits for AMC, again, I'm putting a question mark here. This is the fourth bullet. I'm saying that those are profits. Let's see. That's my forecast. I could be wrong, but we'll see those in a couple of weeks. The $143 million of debt that was paid down, the $244 million of cash that was brought in, the fact that, and I can say this very confidently, that we've had positive cash flows since April. So either we'll see even more cash on the books, or we will see more debt paid down. Of course, you all know that I wouldn't mind seeing a little Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but we will see when Adam decides, when or if Adam decides that's right for our company. Then just don't sleep on the impact of, we've got new projectors, new screens, new seats, and that's just ongoing. So over time, you'll start to see the return on that investment, start to see maybe ticket prices going up. Maybe we see more attendance because people are saying, oh, okay, I like these new seats, or I like this great new projector, or whatever. We've got this increased advertising revenue. We've got increased Wednesday attendance and Stubbs membership. So again, you just say all that out loud, like literally just say this list out loud. While I didn't even put on here the fact that we've had this box office recovery going, right? So you just hear signal after signal after signal saying we're moving into that thrive period of AMC. We're starting to be very profitable, and people are starting to have to acknowledge it. And our executive team is not resting. They're still adding and improving. I love it. Hey, just a quick personal note, and then we're almost done here. I don't know, I had a little bit of noise on X today, and I wanted to just explain one or two things. And it's just all part of the journey, and I don't mind just being transparent about it. Sometime, hopefully, after we win, I will just tell a lot more of my stories, unless I just go hermit and disappear. But I don't see myself doing that. I'm here to fight for retail. I'm here to advocate for cleaning up our markets. I'm here for a lot of other things that I believe are sort of, justice. And you guys know that by now. People have seen me for, we're getting close to 5 years. By now, it's pretty clear who I am and what I'm about. But, from time to time, I will, let's say maybe I unfollow somebody. There are people who end up even getting blocked. Had 2 nights ago, someone was spreading what I deemed FUD, and so I kind of tried to correct it, and then they got snarky with me, so I got a little grouchy. So, listen, guys, I'm human. And so here's a couple things. One is, as part of my story, I have been surrounded multiple times by fake groups, and I got fooled by it the first couple times. I was more naive and trusting. At my nature, in my heart, I'm a very trusting and open person because I will tell you the truth. I'm a person of integrity. And so what happens is, I find it interesting that liars tend to suspect everybody and truth tellers tend to be over naive. And so, I think we make this mistake of projecting ourselves onto others, right? And so what happened is, without going too long into the stories, I had a lot of betrayals in 2021 and 2022 in particular. And those started to make me have to level up, guard myself a little more, see things a little more clearly, even got hacked. Had other people who definitely turned out to be liars of who they were and what they were there for. And I was over open. I was too open and too trusting. And so what I saw over time, and if you follow me on X, then you've seen I started to notice the network, started to call them out a lot more, started to connect dots. I'm a person who sees patterns. And so there are certainly some folks who I definitely, from time to time, it escalates enough. I'll call people out and stuff like that. You guys know that about me. That's not new. And so I guess what I want to share too is sometimes I'll just unfollow someone because it could be as simple as maybe there are just things showing up in my feed that I just don't particularly want in my face. It doesn't always have to mean I don't like a person or I don't want to be with them or I see them as part of the network or something, So just if I ever unfollow any of you or have never followed some of you, I hope you'll not take it personally. It's not always the signal you think it is. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, maybe there was some negativity, but I understand people, it's a free internet. You get to say whatever you want. Some people want to complain a little more, and sometimes I'm just saying, hey, this is such a hard fight. I don't want to see that in my face. Other times, I'll be honest, if you're walking with enough of the shills, especially people who openly hate me, then I'm probably going to unfollow you, just because I've just learned over time, if people kind of won't disconnect from others who hate me, then often that's a sign. And so there's been a few people, some I've even been direct and open with, who have just said, hey, you're walking with these people who openly attack me. I can't to kind of stay close to you. And if they just say, okay, that's what I'm going to do, then you release people. You let them choose their own path. That doesn't have to mean I hate somebody or whatever. There was one I even said, hey, I'm still here for you. So that'll happen too. So I don't know. I guess I know there's people out there who feel a little bit hurt sometimes if I don't follow you or I unfollow or these types of things. Some even like to talk about me, whatever. I guess I just wanted to say, wherever we all are, there's 4 million of us who own AMC. We're not all going to be best friends and brothers and sisters all day, every day. That's just going to happen. But I want you all to know what I'm committed to. I'm committed to sharing what light I believe there is, on a personal and even a spiritual level. I'm committed to speaking truth. I'm committed to fighting against what I perceive is wrong in our markets, in our society, in the world. I'm committed to decentralization. You guys know I've kind of been orange pilled. I believe in Bitcoin because of its decentral nature, because it's not controlled by the global banking system. I am going to press back against that global banking system. There's a reason I've been celebrating El Salvador and Nayib Bukele, and why I have so much respect for what he's doing, and flipping his nation from being the most dangerous nation on earth to being the safest nation on earth. I am going to be there for people who I perceive who are working for what I call the light, who want to share truth, who want to push back against the real power, not pretend that they're in the resistance while they're actually just echoing the entire media and academia and all that stuff. So I don't know. A lot of that's real personal. It's fine if some of you disagree with it. Hey, if nothing else, someone said today on X, and I actually kind of understood it. They said, hey, I thought he was going to be like a brother. And I do want that, guys. I honestly want to be, it's my nature to want to be close. But that's also been weaponized against me many times over the past 4.5, 5 years, which is what, darkness does. It tries to kind of jade us and flip us. So I hope that you will always receive dignity from me. I'm going to treat people with kindness and dignity. If I perceive someone is fighting against the light, I am going to push back. If I've ever pushed back against the wrong people and hurt anybody, I hope I get the chance to make that right and ask forgiveness, because I believe in that too. And so, if that's you, if you feel hard done by me, let it play out. There's time. I just ask for time. Be consistent. How many times have some of you heard me say over the years, consistency over time? Your character will show, and I'll hopefully have a chance to see that, and reach out to you. Vice versa. I hope you're watching my character be consistent over time. And, the character of a human who will get some things wrong, but who I hope on the really big stuff is getting it right and who cares a lot. And in the end, somebody had said, like I said, maybe they thought I was going to be a brother, but at least I'm a source. If I'm at least a credible and a integritus, we need a better word, a credible source with integrity, then I hope you'll choose that you can still walk with me. What I was highlighting on X today was a different issue that I wasn't even talking about some of the people who kind of came and talked about it. It was that there were genuine friends, people who I'd let into my trust, who, like I said, betrayed, abandoned, left, and chose to not support me. And that is just sad, when sometimes people would rather please, the system, the network, the masses, than to just do what's right and support the people who are fighting for what's right. So I just hope you'll all consider what your role is in your own life, and not about me, but I'm talking even, and not just about AMC, I'm talking in sort of, let's call it real life, in your neighborhoods, in your circles, in your communities. Where are the people who aren't as easy to support publicly, but actually are trying to work to do what's right? And what's your role in trying to help bolster and support those people? Or yourself. Start to take uncomfortable positions because you know it's right and you got to speak up. So anyway, love to all. We're going to do this, whether we all get along the whole way or not. Stick with it, guys. I think we're in the right place for the right reasons. And you know what I believe, that we will win. So let's go.